will get that transition one of these days. Welcome to another ORG podcast. My name is Cade, and I usually introduce myself as my wife and I own a small ortho lab here in Texas, out in the country. But this time I'm going to introduce myself also as a YouTuber. Many of you may know, many of you may not know, I have a YouTube channel called RetainerDesigner, where I teach the next generation of orthodontic lab technicians. But I have a special guest today that I'm going to introduce quickly. I don't have much of housekeeping today. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. This is the day after Christmas, and this is the time that me and Miller could connect on this live stream. But without further ado, I'm going to bring him up because he's the reason we're here talking about this. But again, I'm introducing myself also as a YouTuber because Anthony Miller from the YouTube channel dental.thing is also a YouTuber, so we have a lot to talk about. All right, I'm going to bring you up, Miller.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hey, great to be here.
Oh, it's excellent. I'm glad we were able to finally connect. There was a week there that I was sick, and then I had a family member that passed, and then you were sick, and then we were trying to get together. And sometimes this time of year between Christmas and New Year's is a good time to either it's dead or it's very busy.
Yes, oh, definitely. I definitely see that all around, and it just gets a little bit busier on my side in the offices coming up onto the new year. So, especially for the people when they're using their insurances, it's something else.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that affects the lab too, because yeah, we get those
turnaround time.
So-and-so needs their retainer before they go back to college. And yeah, or dentures, or they need to use their flex points or something. I forget what it's called. Yeah, there's a lot of I actually saw a meme on my phone not too long ago by Voices from the Bench. It's another podcast for Dental Lab, and it was Mark Zuckerberg like looking in a window, and it was like checking to see that you're wearing your denture, that I had an emergency rush out the door. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff right there. I love the dental memes that come in every now and then. They make me feel a lot better about that. There's some funny minds over on our side. It's not just all pulling teeth and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you are the founder or creator over at dental.thing YouTube channel. And let me bring this up real quick. Let's see. Can I do this? Yes. Am I going to do this? There we go. Here's his channel. Everybody go there. Many of you are watching from the ORG, which is the Orthodontic Resource Group. We are an association of dental lab techs, orthodontic assistants, orthodontist, in-house lab techs. We are a group of everybody, but we are also a dental team, and this is a term that Miller came up with for our podcast. Is the dental team, the relationship between the assistants and the lab tech. And this is his channel, and just like I teach the next generation of ortho lab techs, he teaches dental assisting on his channel, and he's also a dental assistant instructor, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But this is his channel. And let me play one of my favorite videos. I didn't get a chance to deep dive into your channel much, but I'm going to. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Here we go. Let's go full screen.
Oh no!
Can you hear that?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Oh yes.
So it's gonna stream bad. So let me pull that back down. But anyway, that is his channel. And this is one of my favorite videos. Was the tooth numbering. Very valuable for those that own labs out there. Subscribe to his channel and send your new employees you just hired off the street that doesn't know a tooth from, a tongue, and sit them down and watch this, because there's a lot that you sit down and you put them in front of my channel to learn how to bend wire. This is the beginning right here. Is Anthony Miller here teaching everything to do with Dental 101, tooth name. This was a nice video. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. And it's funny that you kind of freeze framed on that specific part because it is going over ortho speak, as I usually call it, as far as numbering numbering everything. So that was actually a pretty sly move
Yeah,
that we got there.
that man, that just worked
Yeah.
out perfect, didn't it? And this is what's showing is the federal tooth
Yes,
numbering system. Am I saying that right? Federal.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay,
Federation Dentiere International
Federation.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is actually my favorite. This one
Yes.
makes
Oh,
more
so
sense than
easy.
both of them.
Oh yes, this is definitely the more liked version of learning numbers, especially when I'm going over it with students. And then once I move away, they're just like, no, why are we going back to that other version?
Yeah,
Bring back the double numbers.
because I was thinking about this because I got to create the same video for the online course, and I'm like,
Yes,
I need to teach all three because as lab techs, we get
yes,
a mixture of I call it the general and then the
yes,
ortho, and the
yes.
general each tooth has its own number 1 to
Number.
32, and
Yep.
then ortho that one's better because you can just say one number and it's that tooth, or
Mm-hmm.
otherwise you got to learn ortho is you just need to learn 7 or 8 teeth
Hey.
and just
Yep.
then learn quadrants. So
Yep. So
easier to
easy.
learn but harder to write out. uh,
Yes.
and so when a doctor says tooth number 8, you're like, okay, is that a central or is that a molar?
Right? Yeah, that's right. Are we talking wisdom stuff or just right in the front?
and you even go into in this video, the way you even say it, 3
Yes.
1 or
Yes.
31, it is different. So
It's a fun different way of kind of learning, and especially because sometimes a lot of my prospective students want to go into ortho and everything on their side. So excuse me. So on that side, they like learning it, and I'll throw them some kind of curveballs and be like, "Oh, where's 5-7 or 5-3?" And they're like, "We only learned a 4." I was like, "No, got to keep going, got to keep going to the kids
baby
stuff."
teeth.
So, baby teeth, exactly.
Yes.
Oh, it throws them off when I start saying
Oh, that's
6
great.
and everything. Oh,
Because I thought it was going to be a trick question there for a second. You're like, there is no 5 quadrant, but yeah,
and then
you
I
tricked
get
them.
them. As usually teachers tend to do, just kind of throw
Well,
you curveballs.
let's get into the teaching a little
Yeah.
bit. How? Okay, usually I interview lab owners, right? And I ask them, how
Yes.
did you get into ortho? And
Right.
uh, and so I want to ask, how did you get into where you are right now? How'd you get started?
With funny enough, as a lot of things on this channel has started with, was ortho. I was
No
in
way.
braces for about like 5 years due to my own mechanisms that I was doing. But I was in braces for about 5 years, and it gave me enough time in the chair to talk to the ortho assistants and be like, "Hey, this seems pretty cool. You guys like what you're doing? Yeah, I like what I'm doing. I kind of like what you're doing too. I want to do that." And
Yeah.
so through, I think when I was 14, 15, learning about all that, kind of watching them, questioning them, it got me more interested in doing just dental stuff and wanted to do orthodontics on the assisting side, and that was pretty cool. So, and eventually went to a vocational school after high school, and did dental assisting and learned all the aspects, as they just kind of blanket teach everything,
Hmm.
and never made it into the ortho side as far as an assistant, even though that's what got me into it, and I like doing stuff that's related to it. I was always stuck in general, so never got to
Well,
make that one, but it was very informational.
and that's funny because that parallels my story. I was in braces,
Oh,
and I got hired by my orthodontist to do cephalometric examinations where you got to trace things. And
yes.
I'd play football. We had to get out of football at 6. They gave me a key to the office, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
go in there and I'd clean the office, and then I'd do those tracings for him at night. And then eventually, during the summer, they're like, "Do you want to assist?" And I was like, "Yes,
Mm.
that'd be great." And I remember my first patient to take the O-rings off, and my
Yes.
hand was doing like that. And then her last name was Norris, and I was like, "Oh God, she is probably related to Chuck Norris, and he's gonna come after me if I hurt her." And so so I was in high school.
Yes.
Were you involved assisting as high school?
Not in high school. I did shadow at my dentist office that I was going to for a good bit to kind of get some insight stuff. And mainly it was just sterilizing and doing sterilization
Yeah, that's
and
where they
doing a
started
little
me.
bit of
Yeah,
chair side,
yeah,
which was even just brought on the feelings of I do want to do this.
yeah,
And that kind of let me further go into this path and ended up in my different offices that I've been out when I was an assistant, which was great experience. Loved all the different aspects that I got to learn, even though I never got to ortho.
yeah,
But learning all the different specialties, oral surgery and root canals, which is my favorite, even though it's boring to a lot of people.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
it is very cool to gather all the information I did from the great doctors that I worked for.
No, there are. That's interesting you brought that up because there are different divisions in the ortho in the lab. So
Yes,
dentures, crown and bridge and
Crown
ortho
Bridge.
and all that stuff. So whenever I went to lab school, you learned them all, and
Yes.
I assume that's how your school's set up. And
Yep.
but our second year we specialized into one of them.
That's super neat. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But I don't see how you could probably do that. To me, I feel like ortho assisting might be easier than
Yeah.
general assisting.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
very much so.
Less blood.
That's what a lot of them tend to be, especially once I get into teaching the different specialties. And it's like, okay, we're going to watch a couple videos, see who passes out, see who kind of looks away. It's like, hey, you are probably going this direction.
Yeah,
And it's like, do you want to like do like not a lot of stuff? Do you want to just kind of be more sat, hold your hand out, pass off hand files? Endo's for you. And
yeah,
ortho definitely has its place as you're not seeing so much blood underneath the gums, but
yeah,
you're just seeing gingivitis blood,
yeah.
and
Right.
at that point, a lot of people can handle that.
Yeah, just blood from brushing your puffy gums.
Puffy
Uh,
gums.
so you're in there teaching, and you're like, okay, those who didn't pass out, go into this room, and
Yes.
we'll wait for these people to wake up, and then we'll play
Yep.
the ortho video for
Yeah, let's
them.
put that one up. Everyone likes that.
Yeah,
But it's like you mentioned, it definitely is easier as far as sometimes just how many procedures we can do. Because in general, we can do everything,
yeah,
anything under the sun. Generalists can do. But with ortho, it's a lot more streamlined. Couple certain procedures that you're going to be doing: debanding, placing brackets, polishing, just these small little things. You just have a larger amount patient pool because you're going through a lot of them so fast. So it's different, definitely, but a lot of them tend to say that the day goes by fast because
oh
of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so how did you get into teaching? Now you mentioned when we
Yep.
were in our green room, I guess,
Yes.
that you did military a little bit.
Yes.
So did that lead to the teaching?
With the military aspect, it didn't. But what ended up happening is when I was done with the military aspect, something kind of rang true in my head, which was, hey, back to one of my instructors at the time, telling us as a class, hey, if you guys get some years under your belt, get your RDA. I think you guys have RDA in Texas, potentially too, as a level.
Yeah.
Um, you can come back and teach. And that always rang something because I always, for one, wanted to be a math teacher.
Whoa.
But teeth were definitely cooler to me
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So I figured if I can't do the math yet, I can teach teeth. And and very surprisingly, I was able to get hired as an instructor under the same school that I went to school at, just a different area. So it was super neat to go back into there from student to instructor and seeing all the curriculum as they taught it to me, as I have access to everything they have. It was super cool, and that was that's what stuck for the most part. I a lot of times trained people, new assistants in the office, and now doing it permanently throughout for
Oh.
anyone that's interested
Oh.
was definitely where my passion came into, and that kind of led a lot to this channel, is being able to teach beyond my classroom and
Well.
do YouTube.
Well. When did you start the channel? Do you remember when that was? I was looking in
Yeah,
here.
what it was my first year of teaching at that point, and this was back in, let's see, it was my first year teaching, which was back in 2017. and
Oh,
the
holy
reason why
cow!
yeah, and then even
2006.
yeah, yeah, and I've had this channel just in my back pocket for a long time, because about 2006 and everything, that was when I was about 16 when I knew I wanted to do dental stuff. The channel's changed names a couple times, but it's always been teeth teeth
Oh,
related.
yeah.
Yeah, but the first video came about, 2017, when one of my students wasn't there, and I was like, okay, I don't want to have to go and reteach this all over again. It's kind of a long procedure, long stuff. So, hey, can you record for me? Watch what I'm doing, kind of zero in on certain things, and
Oh,
from
excellent.
there, I was just like, hold on, this seems like this seems
There's
useful.
something here.
There's something here, and it didn't really start getting I didn't really start getting it going until I started seeing some comments on the videos saying, hey, this is instructional, this helped me learn what we were going over at my school or out there in the field. Doc said, hey, go and review and go and learn how to do this. And that's when I started really getting into, started making videos. And I think what truly started it was when COVID happened.
Oh, yeah. That that.
Everything was down. I didn't have access to my students in my classroom anymore, and so I would demonstrate them because I kind of have a lot of equipment that I would accumulate over the years from different offices because they were either halfway broken down, so I'd repair them, and I was able to demonstrate a lot of things at home in my garage because I kind of had some of the applying equipment, but that's when I realized I need to start making videos. And that was, it just kept going. So about 3 years consistently, but yeah,
Well,
that was the journey.
and the editing is to me the hardest part. And that's why I do live a lot, so I don't have to edit.
Yeah, I
So
noticed
that,
that because you do have a lot of videos on your channel, but I noticed there a lot of them are lives, which are
yeah.
nice, especially when like you have where someone can just ask a question at that point, and
Oh, yeah.
that's the important part that I miss sometimes is that I notice when I'm in classes. They can ask me right then and there,
Yeah.
why is it like this, and that comes out to be super important is to have that the ability to answer that on the spot.
And that's where you and I connected, was through the chat of one of my live streams.
Yes,
And I was, you said it was, I was talking about my son learning
yes,
something, and
yes,
you're like, I'm here to teach assistants how to take better impressions and scans.
yes.
And I was like, oh, I need to talk to you. I looked at your channel. I was like, oh, that's perfect. You're doing the same thing I'm doing, but on the other side of the dental team. Uh,
Yes.
so that's great. And people can also compliment
Oh, oh,
things.
look at him.
So thank
I know
you.
him.
Your host seems cool. So thank you for that. And a
Yes.
little support for you. You got this.
Yes. And if I
So,
remember, I think he's in dental school in another country.
oh,
He's a frequenter over on my side of the channels when I'm usually
yeah.
live.
Yeah,
So,
so we're
oh,
dual streaming to your channel
yeah.
and to my channel and to the ORG channel all at once through this
Yes.
software. Which, uh, since COVID, I think a lot of this software has gotten so
Oh,
much more
so much
valuable.
better. Yes.
And so this is where I live stream um, my things. So anyway,
Oh, yeah.
so COVID happened and you took off on your channel. It was
Yeah.
kind of almost the same thing when I started my channel, 2010 ish.
Yes.
Um,
You've been doing it for a
I
while too.
Yeah, I was a orthodontic assisting, and I
Oh.
started learning the doctor started teaching me how to make appliances in the
Mm-hmm.
lab stuff. So he had a little miniature lab, and so I'd make invisible retainers or hollies or something. He'd teach me what he knew, and then that's when he was like, I was applying for dental school at the same time, and he goes, and I didn't get in because
Yeah.
you know 3.0 average doesn't get you into dental school,
Yeah.
and I
They're tough
you know
cookies.
I did not like school that much, but I loved the career. Like you said, you
Yep.
get into that and you're like, oh, I really want to do this with teeth. Don't know why. A lot of people think we're crazy,
Yes.
but so I wanted to do dental school, and I was just average scoring and everything across the board. And then I got this pamphlet from this school in San Antonio that I guess they send these pamphlets to all the dental students that didn't get in the first year. So, so I got one of those pamphlets. I'm like, I'm not going to go to this school. I
Yeah.
want to be a dentist. And
Yeah.
the orthodontist I worked for is like, no, go to this school because I would be an ortho lab tech if I wasn't an orthodontist. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I really like that aspect of it. And so I got to go to that school, but we didn't have any resources at the time. I don't think YouTube was even
Not
invented
at
yet. It was
that time.
early 2000s, and
Yeah.
I told myself if I ever get the education, I'm going to just share it for free online, and so that's what I
Mhm.
started doing. And so
Perfect.
we got the same pathway.
Exactly.
You were like you can't connect to your students here,
Yeah.
or maybe the students are running behind or need some extra tutorial. You just send them a link, and
Yes.
they
It's
get.
invaluable to be able to have to just even just have the knowledge and be able to pass it along. And even just like what I've heard going through kind of my rounds of teaching and everything, and the different people that I've worked with, is that not everyone's meant to be a teacher, to be able to do it live with an audience that's there to learn what you have to teach them. But for some reason, I'm still here. So it's been a wild ride, and I never thought this would be where I would end up at this point. And I'm super glad I'm at where I'm at. I'm very blessed, very thankful that it is what it is right now. Because I'll tell you, I live in scrubs.
Yeah,
I just live in scrubs. Dental teeth run my life. I have like a tooth ring
yeah.
that I made and
I
everything.
think did I watch a live stream of you doing that?
I think it may
In your
you possibly could have caught one of the random ones that I'm just doing random dental things at my little workbench and everything. But yeah, it's a little disturbing one I have to take off sometimes when the wife's got kind of sick of it. She's like, "Hey, go ahead and put your other rings on."
oh yeah, that's getting too distracting.
Exactly. So teeth kind of just run my existence at the moment, which is wouldn't have it any other way wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. And you got some funny shorts here. Uh,
Yes, from
that
the assisting side and such.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, and
I
there's
need
one
to
about
get more
impressions.
into that.
Like
But
you
I mean,
mentioned,
you got a whole tray
editing.
here
Yeah.
for assisting, and you just explaining it. And do you tend to get your audience that watches you? Are they dental curious? Are they looking into this career, and so they do a search? Have you ever researched
Right.
that?
A lot of times I'm trying to kind of feel that out myself, is who is the audience. Because if it is just these are for the dental professional that just wants to relearn what they learned back in the day, perfect, this is for you. But I for the most part, I try to keep it very ground floor foundational, as far as like how I'm teaching it, so that any dental curious person can come in and join in and find their way. And I think that's why I really like it, is because I don't want to only only speak to the people that have had their time in the field. I want there to be more of us, and I think we kind of told we talked about before. It's a little bit it's getting scarcer to be able to get
It
us out there.
Well,
It's
and we could discuss that. One of the
Yeah.
schools you started at, or you went to school, is it closed now? You said.
Yeah, the first initial school that I went and went back to teach at, I was teaching there for about 2 years before they ended up closing down, and I was kind of perplexed. I was like, okay, well, what do I do from now? And I wanted to go back into teaching, wanted to continue teaching, and I had a little space of time there where there wasn't any schools that was either close by enough or that was just had an open position. So in the meantime, I had to fill in the little gap, and that's where I kind of did. I went back out into the field, and kind of like what we mentioned, I went and I worked at the prison for dental assisting,
Yeah,
and that was a wild ride too.
yeah, I can imagine. So yeah,
Yeah.
we had mentioned that we also did the same thing with
Yes.
there's some dental lab prison schools out there, which is great
Yeah.
because a lot of these prisoners, they get out and they can't get a job, they don't have a career,
Oh yeah.
and they end up brought back in because there's no way for them to make money. And so this is a great volunteer
Yes.
program in school that you were a part of
Yes.
to help with
It's
that. Uh, but so the end of your school, so somebody graduates from your assisting
program.
school,
Yeah.
are they already an RDA?
At that point, at the point where they finally kind of grad out and they're finished with all their time with us, they can now sit for the test to take an RDA,
Okay.
which is not necessary here in California, but definitely opens up many avenues for you in the future as far as just an employable person, duties and everything like that. But I know, like I tell them, you already went through the program. You have everything to be able to take the test. Unless you just don't like money, go and
Yeah.
go and get your license.
It,
So it's an avenue which I can also attest to. I didn't get mine for a good bit. I just kind of sat on just being a dental assistant, and then when I finally got it, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
yeah.
This is neat. I can do more stuff. And so
So tying in the schools are shrinking, especially for us for our dental labs. I think
yeah,
I want to say there's only 13 in the whole nation
wow,
left. There's none in Texas. And
wow,
Texas is, well, there's some military bases, but you got to be in the
yes, yeah,
military to do that. In Texas, you have to be a CDT, so that's the RDA for dental labs,
wow,
is a certified dental technician. You have to
yes,
have a CDT working in your lab 30 hours a week, according to Texas Dental Practice Act.
yes,
And you got to register your lab. To register your lab, you have to have a CDT working for. Most owners are CDTs, but there's
yes,
no schools in Texas
mm,
anymore. So if you got to do on the job training,
yes,
which that's an option for y'all, almost like a apprenticeship. Uh,
yeah.
so that is, I think that's where our channels are going to help out. Hopefully,
Oh yeah.
is I would always recommend going to the lab school
Hmm.
or dental assisting school
Yes. Oh,
because it's
absolutely.
just a concentrated injection of knowledge.
Yes.
On the job, you're being paid
Loose.
to produce.
Yeah.
In the lab, it's like you may be stuck pumicing retainers for 3 years before you learn anything else.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Oh, it's. I can definitely see that aspect between the on-the-job trained and the institution trained. It helps you to be able to get out and do more quicker, like you
it,
mentioned.
and it looks like we're not the only ones because Frank here said, "Good evening, first happy Christmas." Yeah, happy Christmas,
Oh,
Frank.
hey!
We have the same deficit of ortho class in France, so
Wow.
it's not just America.
Yeah.
America, it's nationwide,
Yeah.
and the rules that apply to all those different countries are different. And that's one thing I was wanting to get into is you
Yes.
were saying California, you don't
Yeah.
need to be an RDA to work as assistant. I believe in Texas, you do need to be an RDA to be an assistant.
Yes.
So
Yep.
each state, and we talked dental therapist. Frank, maybe you know more about dental therapy than we do, where you can actually give shots, pull certain loose teeth.
Yes.
It's like it exists between assistant and dentist. There's a
Mhm.
dental therapist, which I don't think we have in the states. Somebody's watching could probably
Right.
quote. Yeah, I know we have denturist, which
Yeah.
probably exists between the assistant and the doctor. Can take impressions, make the denture, reline
Yes.
dentures, repair dentures, that kind of thing. And that's
So
only in a
many
few
different
states.
branches. Yeah, so many different branches that we're able to go out from, depending state wise and everything. But it's nice that you don't just have to be stuck in one spot. Just go to the
Yeah,
next one.
yeah. And so, do you find people? So you teach ortho um, uh, aspect
Yeah. Yes.
a little bit. You got to throw that in there because you never know where they're going to get a job, where the jobs are
Right.
at.
Yes. As far as ortho, when we get into it, a lot of it, and of course, it's down to just the curriculum and what information they give us, and then we can kind of go deeper if we want to. But it goes into for the assistants, a lot of the duties that an orthodontic assistant or an OAP that we would have here in California is allowed to do for OAP would be like cementing the brackets onto the teeth. That's what a lot of people, that's what a lot of assistants or people that are getting into the school is thinking, okay, I can, when I'm done with this, I can go and cement brackets on teeth for dentists. And like, yeah, when you reach these little steps and everything, but as a foundation, a lot of them, especially for ortho, is ortho measurements, making sure that we know how to measure everything the correct way, putting different tie wires on brackets, banding, sizing correctly, using our different elastomeric ties, just knowing ortho, knowing enough ortho to be able to explain to the patient a little bit deeper why we're doing this, the importance of it all. So
Yeah.
even though it's a small dive into it, I would say a lot of people, a lot of the potential students that get into it, that their first thing out of their mouth is, "I want to learn braces."
Yeah.
So I was like, "I've
Well,
totally been there before. Let's
and
teach you. Let's
each
see if we got a steady hand."
so you teach probably to California rules and regulations on assistants.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
even though they can probably take their RDA all over the nation.
yes,
But I think Texas is you you can't. Oh, it may have changed. You can't place the bracket.
yes.
The doctor has to check the
Check.
placement before it's light cured or
Like here.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's all these little rules, and
Mm-hmm.
like things like taking an impression, you have
Mm-hmm.
to be verbally commanded,
Yes.
told by the doctor to take that impression.
Oh, yes. And
Is
yeah,
that the rules and things you have to deal with?
yes, and a lot of it does come down to knowing your supervision level, and they have it notated as a different thing for other states, like you mentioned, being either verbally ordered to be able to do that or delegated the duty. It just depends on what state you're in, and a lot of times, as a fun one, whenever we're conversing assistant to assistant across state lines and everything, will someone will not slip up but say like, oh yeah, I was polishing this person's tooth and this and that, and then
Oh,
someone will be like, oh, why are you allowed to do that? Only hygienists can do that. It's like
right.
in our state we're a little different.
Yeah.
We got higher licensures to allow us to do it. So definitely in California it goes under direct supervision. Doc's in the op, so he can interfere with anything that potentially is going on if need be, or general supervision or indirect, where they're in the office and they just delegate the duty to the assistant, and they can go and do that within their allowable scope of practice.
Right.
And so that's something that's always that I'm always trying to harp on the students, is knowing what you're allowed to do under certain guidance, because it seems like a lot of times like, oh, you go ahead and just place that, it's not going to hurt anyone, it's not under my allowable scope, I got to have you in this room with me. And so
Right.
just
That's a
making sure everyone's
good
safe
point.
for whatever reason um, is an important aspect to all the states having that Dental Practice Act, like you mentioned before, that tells us what we can do.
And that's part of the. I assume RDA. There's a certain jurisprudence that they have to
Yes.
read their state's dental practice act and take a test on it and
Yes.
stuff, which
Oh
we
yeah.
do here in Texas with the CDT or with
Yes.
our registered. Every registered person with the state board of dental examiners has to take a jurisprudence test.
Yes.
But
Yes, and
that's
it's like you mentioned, just like you mentioned, because we have that higher licensure, just having that reciprocity, that exchange of ESL take your licensed professionals, and then you can take our licensed professionals is important, because I had students go over to Texas, not RDA yet, and when they got there, the state was like, "Hey, you either come here as an RDA, or you got to take our institution to become an RDA." And I was like, "Girl, just come back, get your RDA California, make the transfer at that point," because um, it's a lot of red tape, but it's for an
yeah.
important reason.
Well, and getting into um, being, the doctor being chair side. That
Yes.
was whenever I was an orthodontic assistant, it was the doctor's looking in the patient's mouth and you're sitting there with like a notepad and he's like,
Yep.
1622 wire, power chain from here to here, and you're like writing all this down and
Quick
he'll just give
shorthand.
you, or she will just give you a list of all these things you got to do and then take the wires out, take an impression, and send that to
Yes.
the lab for making something else. So I've never heard it said like there's indirect and there's direct and there's
Right.
different things of I didn't realize where the doctor was in the office,
Yeah.
back playing solitaire on their computer in their office,
Exactly.
and you're like
They're directly there.
you're
They're
buzzing
there.
them. There's
Yep.
patients waiting,
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
and we talked about dental hygienist as a
Hmm.
part of the um, dental team. We didn't. I didn't mean to skip them, but I believe as lab techs we have more interaction with assistants
Us.
than
Yes.
hygienists, really, because
Yes.
hygienists they do their own thing, and in
Yep.
fact, dental lab school, and hygienist school are usually together. It's
Oh,
the same school that.
like
So whenever I went to school, we were in the fourth floor of the dental school building, and the
yeah.
hygienists were there too. But that is a very popular course. I don't think those are going away anytime because
Oh, yeah.
it's a great
It's like
career.
nursing. Yeah, it's
So,
just like nursing.
do you find that your students go from assisting and they go immediately into a hygiene school, or do they work a few
Very
years
good.
first?
Yeah, very good point. And because here in California, that's kind of either the tree, that's the kind of the branch out portion that they either go to. It's they'll stay as they'll get out DA, they'll get their licensure or not, whichever they want to, because it's different. It's up to them. But they can either go to hygiene, which is definitely what a lot of them tend to want to go to, and then there's another path that they can go over to that no one usually knows of unless they're in here, which in California is called, it's a lot of abbreviations, RDAEF2, which is yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. And people ask, well, what's the one? We took the one away. It's just two now.
Oh,
And that's the expanded functions ability where we are allowed to, I'm not an EF2 yet or anything, but an EF2 is allowed to, after the doctor has numbed and drilled out the hole for whatever purpose is there, that EF2 will now fill that with a permanent restoration, a permanent filling. So placing amalgam, placing composite, taking a final impression to be able to send out to dental labs. And it's a lot more one-on-one with doc or with the patient and the assistant. It's just, we just need doc to numb and drill and
right.
extract teeth. Mm.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
how valuable is that to a doctor
Oh,
to
man.
have an assistant that can do? There are some doctors I knew that wherever they went, they took their assistant with them. I mean, they
Oh,
were a
yes.
team, and they were like,
Yes.
"I am not. You are going to have to hire her or him
Me.
to come. If you hire me, I'm bringing her with me." And
Yes.
the team aspect of four-handed dentistry, if I'm using that
Mhm.
term right, I
Yes,
mean,
that's right.
it's almost like this. You that's one thing that was taught to me as an assistant. You try to read the mind of the doctor. What will they want? What will they ask for next? Go ahead and
Yeah.
have it ready.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, what
And
comes next?
yeah,
Anticipation. 4 steps in front of the doctor. Know the procedure and what they're going to do before they know it. It's a lot of mind reading, like you mentioned, which is super important for someone to just be cognizant of what's happening around them. And you learn your doctor. And I think a really good compliment that I had one time from not the patient, but the patient's, I think it was mom or dad, their parent, was they watched us do. I think it was a filling or it was a root canal, and the whole time, me and my doctor never talked. The whole time for that procedure, I don't know why, but it was just an odd one where we just didn't talk. And the parent was like, how did you guys get through all that? You didn't say anything. I was like, oh, we just know, we just know each other's next move, or mainly I knew his next move, and that was something that made me realize that I can just, the anticipation part, I had to learn it and get it down, and now I have it kind of really set where in every aspect of life. It's like, oh, here's the spatula. Why do I need a spatula? Because you're going to flip the eggs in like 3 steps.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just being on toes in this, even just being a parent, just knowing what those kids are going to do next. So, or
yeah.
what could potentially happen if they go and move this direction or that direction, comes in handy, because a lot of times what was told to me as an assistant, you're the parent to the dentist, because they'll come, make their mess, kind of do whatever
Oh.
they want. They'll walk out, and that's the person to clean up. I was
Yeah,
like, okay.
and
And
they'll
then,
stick their hand
yeah.
out
Yes,
for
stick your hand
something. You
out.
got to know what to put into it because they're not going to tell you what it is. You know,
Exactly.
so
And
you got to.
it was something fun to learn. And for those, like you kind of mentioned, that want to kind of be more on their own after they've done assisting for a bit, they'll go into hygiene, and a lot of them want to go hygiene. Like you mentioned,
Yeah,
those schools ain't going away. That's a really
yeah,
top career to go to, is hygiene, but it requires more schooling. Get your associates, then go to
yeah.
specifically just hygiene school. Whereas the EF2 course, to be able to do the permanent fillings and final impressions and everything, it's, you do schooling, but you go to like Saturday classes. Like you just go to like weekend
Oh,
classes for like 8 months or so, and
oh,
then at the end
interesting.
of it, you do a hands-on clinical examination, and then you get
On a
to
live patient.
a live patient. Yeah. So throughout that whole time, you'll come and learn the concept at class, on the weekend, and then your dentist that you work for is your sponsor dentist,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
they're going to grade your stuff at the office. Be like, oh yeah, they did well on this, and you have to get an X-ray, send it to your instructor, and to show, oh, your filling depth and your height and all, and no open margins or anything. So they're in debt pretty good too, but they're sporadic classes. They're kind of laid out over many months. Just you see them a couple of times, versus just let's go every day to school and learn 2-4 days a week on this concept, which would be like hygiene in that case. So it's a neat little branch. They get closer and closer in pay the more as we go on, but hygiene definitely
But
is more on their own.
well, and that's great. You know, I've always thought of dental hygiene as like the best career for like a single mom or
Oh yeah.
if you're a working mom, because some can do their own schedule. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and you can work in a doctor's office under a
Yep.
doctor. You know,
Yep.
I think it or with labs in general. It's also a great career for um, single moms or
Oh
a
yes.
career for somebody or single parent, I guess.
Yeah.
But to get to the level of experience to be able to open your own lab is it's 10 years.
You're right.
I think to get your CDT, you're required to have 5 years of lab
5.
experience to
Yeah.
even take the CDT. To be able to
Yes.
pass it, you need about 10 years of experience. So you can take it at 5, but
Yeah. Doesn't
it's
mean you're
hard
gonna.
to be able to
Yeah.
pass it. It's going to take you a decade of lab experience,
And
and so
isn't there
that's
like aspects of it that you have to take too? It's not just like one specific like test that you do, or do you have to take all the different tests
you got to
at
take
that one time?
2 written tests. One's a
Mhm.
general
Yes.
dental lab, and I think that's where they ask tooth morphology, numbering,
Yep. Oh,
all.
cool.
So all the general dental knowledge you need to be able to communicate with a dentist or an assistant
Super.
is the written test, and that's the same written test no matter what specialty you do. And then you take
Gotcha.
a second written test in your specialty you choose. So you have to choose a specialty to take the
Mm.
CDT. So
Oh.
when you get your CDT, it'll say CDT CD complete dentures or OR ortho or
Mm.
so you take your so you do have to have general dental all around dental lab knowledge, which is hard for those that got their experience working in an ortho lab. You don't
Working.
know anything
Yeah.
about dentures or crown and bridge and stuff,
Anything else.
and you got to
Yeah.
learn all that. And then you take your written, and then you take a practical, like the EF
Yes.
two.
Practical. Yeah.
Um, and you at the time I took it, you had to travel to a lab that was hosting it,
Oh.
and then you brought models, and I had 5 hours. I had to make 5 appliances start to finish.
Whew.
So we got prescriptions from doctors that tell us what to make, and then we'd sit there and we'd make it, So you had to bring all your equipment too.
Yes.
So I'm just hauling this huge. I got a lathe on it.
Oh, that's
Bungee
wow.
cord on
That's
this
heavy.
toolbox with wheels. So,
All that stuff is heavy, especially the
but
lathe, man.
now it's all remote testing, which is cool. You got a laptop, you got a cell phone, and somebody's sitting there like this, watching you work. And at some point they'll go carve this random code
Oh,
in that denture you're making,
uh-huh.
and then they'll pass that on to the examiners. And when they receive it,
Mm.
that denture in, it better have that code that was
Yeah, it
randomly
was
come up,
instructed.
so they know that somebody else didn't make it and shipped it in.
Right. Oh, that's pretty neat. That's
Yeah,
neat that they're able to do that remotely. That's great to be able to do.
but
To just make it simpler.
we go back into the laws.
Yeah.
There's only 3 states that require a CDT
Yes.
uh, certification. Otherwise, if you have the experience, you can open a lab anytime. I
Yeah.
guess you could open one without experience, but you probably won't stay open very long. Uh,
Yeah.
but there's a lot that they could pass that exam like that, but they don't need to. They don't need to. Because once you
Yeah.
pass it, and we can get into continuing education.
Yes.
Uh, we have to have 12 years per year of continuing education, and that's
Yep.
what we used to call infection control, which is now regulatory something, and that
Yeah.
includes
The
bloodborne
EPA stuff.
pathogen stuff like that. For
Yes.
getting in bloody impressions. What you got to spray it
Yeah.
down, rinse it, spray it
Disinfectants
down.
used.
That I'm
Yep.
sure you've taught all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and even just like you mentioned on our side, I always stress to my students like, hey, make it easier on them so that even though you cleaned it really good, you disinfected it really well, that even if
we
they
don't.
didn't do
Yeah,
it on their side, they are safe.
yeah. There's some, and I don't know. There's some. It's very state by state where it's on the onus of, if I'm using that word right,
You're
of the
right.
dental office to re-disinfect
Yes.
anything that comes back into the lab.
Yes.
Um, so with that, let me put you on the spot. Let's talk
Oh,
about
perfect.
impressions and teaching how to take impressions.
Oh, love it.
No, I'm kidding. But
Right. Let's go with that. I got my all of my stuff here. It just give me 3 minutes. I can get it done. Take one on myself. Easy.
uh, well, yeah. Uh, so what were you talking about there? You got something you got to do a show and tell right now?
Oh, maybe for another one. But just like we mentioned before, I had to be ready for being able to teach anything at a moment's whim, and I have so much stuff collected that I can do a lot of the different aspects of assisting and explain it on the spot if I needed to. And even what I wanted to do with the channel is for, like you mentioned, to do testing and everything like that. Here in California, we don't have the practical anymore for RDA, but we have our written still. And so sometimes on my live streams, usually that I would be able to do on like Fridays or Saturdays, I would go and host a dental tutoring session. Be like, hey, anyone's dental enough, come over here, ask me questions. I'll run a test with you, anyone that's there, so that we can kind of get down into you being prepared. Because I tell my students is you can learn everything from me as much as possible. You can try to do your own research, but you're not going to have really anyone that's a dental tutor for you out there. I mean, you can find someone for English and math, but not that many people unless it's your doc
Yep.
or anyone that's been in the field long enough that can teach or has the aspect or the want to. There's not that many tutors that are willing to put their time out. And I think that's where I kind of find like it's just my duty to help others just learn it.
Well, I noticed on your channel, you got a lot of Q&A,
Yes.
questions, and
Yes.
so you find students from other educational institutions coming to your channel to ask
Yes.
questions and stuff.
Oh, sometimes they'll stump me too because it's like because I know the ground floor stuff. I'm like, okay, dental assisting, anything that's general 101 dental and everything, I got it. But then I'll get these dentists that come in from other
Oh
countries,
no!
and they're like, what's your view on the use of big old like 37 letter compound chemical on teeth? And I'm like, okay, let me do a quick little search. Let me get some aspects. I'm like, oh, you're just talking about pulp capping. You're just saying it in
Oh,
like a really fun
yeah,
aspect,
yeah.
and so
Sometimes
it's
the
fun when they come
translations
in.
don't. Yeah.
But I think being an instructor and having to relearn all the fundamentals again and have that broad spectrum knowledge helps be able to have anyone that asks anything. Because if, like you mentioned, if you just did all your time at an ortho lab, you kind of know ortho stuff. And in dentistry, unless you're in just general, what you're learning, you're kind of have your hands in everything. I would be lost if I just had root canal knowledge, or I would just be
No.
lost if I just knew how to get teeth out of people's mouths.
Oh, yeah.
So it just having that broad stroke brush helps out to be able to help anyone, and just and of course a little bit comes down to just troubleshooting, problem solving with them. But it's like you mentioned in those live streams, my Q&A ones, I do Q&As and then I usually will tie something else into it, like I'll play games or something.
Oh,
And
yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
I notice is random people will come in because I'm trying to get people to just have that conversation with us as dental professionals is, hey, if you want to come watch me do this, cool. If you have a dental question, ask me. Like some people are just the most common question is, hey, am I brushing my teeth right? I'm like, let's
Oh,
get down
yes.
into it. Like hard bristles, soft bristles, using the right toothpaste. Like we can deep dive and just have someone that people can come to without having to be in the chair, because everyone tenses up in the dental chair.
Yeah. And afraid to ask
Yes.
questions.
And it's just a random guy, and it's the gaming side. So a lot of those gamers over there, maybe they don't end up at the dental office as often as I would like them to, but they can come and see random me and ask me questions. So
Well, I get the same. A lot of. I broke my retainer. Can I send it to you?
exactly
Yeah.
that.
Like,
Oh my
oh,
goodness.
you can, but think of me like a pharmacy. I can't.
Exactly.
I can't work on it directly, but
Had to
I
get
can
the
refer you to a
referral.
dentist that will have an assistant that will take an impression, then send it to
Oh
me
yeah.
with a
Oh yeah.
prescription.
Definitely.
So that I think that that is very important to talk about. I'm trying to get this to load,
Oh
but
oh
it's
oh oh no.
yeah.
What
I was
is it?
trying to get it to load, but look at the comments that are
Oh
the live
yeah,
comments
I would
that
have
you're.
comments, and they would just be asking me about. They just ask me about different things. Sometimes they'll just be gaming related, and then they'll say, "Hey, you know what? This is something happening in my to my teeth, or what do you recommend in this?" And of course, it's just a recommendation to see like a dental professional hands on, but it's. I just want to try to be able to get my to get out to as many people that would want to ask as possible. And something that I'm going to be starting soon, hopefully within this new year, is I want to make more videos that are tailored towards the patients, as far as, hey, my dentist told me I needed this. And then and then
Oh,
I'll go into like a
what
3 minute
is
video
that?
with editing of,
Yeah.
okay, this is why you got there potentially. This is what's going to happen, and this may be cost in relative relations to whatever and what to expect. So that's kind of why I want to end up to everyone, hopefully.
Uh, I think that that's going to open up your channel to a wider audience who's
Yeah.
googling these questions,
Yes.
and so you can like from a dental assistant, this is how patients react to this
Yes.
procedure, or be prepared. Don't you know?
Beautiful.
Don't
Exactly.
don't don't eat
Exactly how I
anything
want it to be.
before your impressions,
That too.
because your breakfast may end up on the floor.
A
Uh,
couple times it has in my experience, but it's definitely if you're anticipating that it could happen, then it's not too much of a surprise, because not that many people want to get into people's mouths.
Well, okay, so bringing back full circle, where
Yeah.
I think you're doing a great job educating yourself in all aspects. You watch my lab channel. I'm sure you're
Yes.
watching dentist
Oh,
podcast
Dennis
channels,
thing. Yeah.
and
SARS stuff and everything. Steve's stuff. Everyone that you
yeah,
possibly can.
and so you're learning what you need to know to pass on to the assistant, so the assistants know we exist. you know
Yes.
that's one of the things that most of the patients that come on the channel is like, I thought the dentist made these appliances.
Yeah.
They're like, they can
They
if they
could.
wanted
They
to,
learn
but
how.
yeah, they don't really.
Yeah.
I think I think the lab part's shrinking in dental
Shrinks.
school,
Yes.
as they're having to add more and more technology and
Oh
procedures to
yeah.
dentists, and they still got to graduate in 4 years. That lab starts shrinking, and then the dentists depend more and more on the lab, which
Yeah.
therefore depend on the assistant to be able to talk to a lab.
Yes.
So, do you build that into your school and in your videos? Is how
Oh
to talk to a
yes.
lab, or things you need to know about a lab? You
Things to
know,
anticipate. Yeah, especially when it comes to just filling out the lab slips correctly,
yeah,
just knowing, hey, you got to really make sure that you put on there that you don't want stain in the grooves or something, or that
yeah,
you want the occlusion to be minimal or high or anything like that. There's so many things on a standard lab slip from any of these big name companies that it's just it's a maze to just look through. Why do they have this asterisk right here? What do they want as a stump shade over here? What does that recommend? What are they referencing? So just
do
trying to make it
you
easier so
do you
that we
bring
can
in actual
communicate
lab
better.
slips from labs that have all
Mm-hmm.
those tiny little check boxes all the way?
Oh yeah,
And you're like,
that and
this is for
then
this. This is what they're asking for. Uh,
yes, and then and that's what I hope to be able to get them to, like you mentioned, is just have us communicate a little bit better because my students don't know about labs either. They're just like same way like you said. Oh, I thought we just made them in the dental office. No, but not a lot of places are equipped to be able to have that stuff in the office, or it's too much to have all these different 3D printers now these days and light curing stations and lathes and everything. So they just send it out to labs and during I think it's actually coming up in this upcoming term that I'm going to be teaching is impressions and impressions, pouring up models, how to trim them correctly or at least adequately, and doing a lot more lab stuff. And I have them make like bleach trays for themselves, and they love making whitening trays for themselves. It's
oh, I
their
bet
favorite thing.
so.
And then
Yeah,
some of them like, well, I lost my retainer and it's going to be like $300 or something from my dentist for an arch. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. You have your model that you poured up like recently, right?
yeah,
I have this stuff. If you want to try to make it, cut it out, feather it so that it doesn't do anything. So there's ways.
yeah.
But
So you get
it's fun.
into what kinds of ortho side, what kinds of appliances do you teach
As far as
assistants?
appliances, when we talk about ortho, we talk about like Halley retainers and palatal expanders, whether they're removable or fixed, and just recognizing how to explain to a person the importance of keep wearing it, keep turning the key this many times, or however the
Right.
doctor prescribes. Um, when it gets into ortho, it's mainly retention and expansion pieces as far as appliances. When it goes to dentures, which will be in the term that I talk about, impressions and everything, it's mainly part for an RDA, how to adjust it, like we mentioned before,
Right.
how to adjust dentures, how to properly look at where it is, what are the different things, full dentures, partials, flexible partials, retention, clear retainers, Essex. I try to hit as much as I can, even though it's not, I don't have to, because I want all these students to at least be able to say, I heard that word before.
Right.
Not, I've never heard that. Who was your instructor? Ms. Miller. No, it wasn't. I told you what told you what you should have known. You should have or paid attention or whatever.
Well, that's the bad thing about ortho is there's
Yeah.
different names, four different names for the same
Yeah.
appliance, and we had an assistant or a technician one time tell a
Mm-hmm.
doctor she's no, it's RPE, not RME. You're doing it wrong, and we were like, no, no, no. It in some states
It's
they
something,
call it
yes.
rapid maxillary expander.
Expansion, yeah.
Yeah, and we may call it rapid palatal expander, but you need to know that there are these other terms out there. So
Yes.
the communication. I know that you have to use almost a generic name for things,
Yes.
but then somebody will say, I need a Gemini. Well, when I grew up, Gemini was like a little 3 to 3, 3 to 3. There's
Uh-huh.
a numbering terminology, K9 to
No, you're
K9.
right. Yeah.
Little
Three to
clip, we
three.
call that a Gemini. But then I found out a Gemini is just for some, it's a retainer with labial acrylic on the front. So
Oh, okay.
you got
Yeah.
to. So sometimes I get a new doctor and they ask for Gemini. I'm like, all right,
Mm,
let me get an assistant on the phone. what's a Gemini to this doctor? You know, can you send me a picture of one? Uh,
Yes. Oh, and some very good resource that when I've been kind of trying to learn all these different dental stuff. Like I have my desk here just full of a model and a bunch of wires, just bending with your videos and everything, learning as much as I can. But the ORG website with
yes.
their
Yeah. Let me.
beautiful pictures and explanations there. Look at you, you have that right there. It is awesome. I love how clear and easy to read if you're dental enough to be able to see all this. It's awesome.
Yeah, and they've done a really good job. That Lance, one of the past presidents, he really pushed this because he realizes there needs to be a form of communication between the dental office and the lab of what are you asking for, and hey, go to or and we're making this completely free. You don't have to be a member to
Yes.
access this,
Yeah.
but you just want to go to retention, and so we have them broken up into categories, and there's all
Yes.
there's invisible retainer
Wraparounds and everything.
and
Yeah.
all
And
the
it's good stuff. It really
yeah,
is.
and this is my standard 1 millimeter thick.
Yeah.
The 1.8, 1.75. I don't. That's more for aligners, in my opinion.
Yes.
But we are updating this where it's an actual PDF that you can download and print.
Oh, cool.
And I'm
Yeah,
trying
that's
to.
perfect because yeah, if you have a PDF version of it and everything, just send it to that new lab or anything or that new office
Yeah,
and right there and there in front of them.
and so then there's pictures of the actual screw, the three-way
Yeah.
screw, and then like where the cuts are going to be made. So you could
Mm-hmm.
actually take this and send it to a lab and go,
Oh
"This
yeah.
is what we want."
Exactly. And
We
that's awesome, especially as a great resource, like the name says, right?
Yeah,
It's perfect. And I've seen it here as far as how detailed it is, because there are very much so a lot of detail oriented pieces to this that that's awesome. And even on my side, because I'm trying to train myself to be a removables lab tech, and there's a lot of stuff on that side too, but more based in like anatomy and
yeah,
height and vertical dimensions and such. And so it's nice to have this as another easy way to go to, because I want to try to be as like you've mentioned before. I just want to be well rounded in it all because one of the things that I want to be able to do in the future. Um, one day is because there's a lot of volunteer events that happen in every state, but in California, there's a lot of them. There's one time that I went to one that offered dentures to for free for anyone that would come in. But I've only seen that once out of the many volunteer events that would happen. So I hope to, if I am able to do it in a fast rate, be able to be that person that is at the volunteer event that has that denture, that removable station or that full denture station, so
yeah,
that you can come over here. If you're on hard times or anything like that, let's get you back into eating
yeah,
ability.
yeah,
Because I feel bad, and I love doing the volunteer events because it just makes you feel good. And I'm usually assisting the doctor, but I only saw it one time where there was a dentures location. And I
it,
want to be
it,
able to recreate that hopefully in the future.
and I think that's good you brought that up because that was one of the aspects of the RG was to start. We brought it up a few times. Start trying to be available for. There's not much ortho you can do because that's long-term treatment, but like we can make
Yes.
flippers.
Right.
Somebody is missing their front tooth and they
Yep.
don't have any money. They have a job interview coming up.
Oh yeah.
We come in, take an impression, get the assistants to take that perfect impression, pour it up, give it to the lab tech who's in the back at a table,
Yeah.
and making everything as fast as they can.
Right. Oh yes. That's awesome stuff to be able to provide in there. So I'm glad that there's even just like little stuff that you can expand into that the org is able to kind of move into.
Yeah, and we'll probably need to partner with schools and,
Yeah.
and things like that because I think teaching or instilling a volunteerism, if that's a word,
You're
into
right.
students as they're learning is a great way to go. I know uh, when I was an ortho assistant and I was learning the lab tech, I remember my orthodontist went in a caravan. The church put together a caravan with like 3 other dentists and him, and they went to
Yes.
Mexico
Yes.
and just set up shop and fix teeth
Walk
and,
in.
and did all that stuff. I was like, when I get my own lab, I'd love to go with them and just set up a little flipper station or
Oh, that'd be
something.
perfect.
you know,
That's exactly
uh,
where I'm on the way to. And man, like you mentioned before and everything, schools are scarce.
yeah,
I can go and probably do my apprenticeship over at a dental lab and everything like that. But I really like teaching, and so I would like to be able to teaching to be my full time thing, and have lab stuff be my kind of off to the side. This is this is stuff that I can kind of just do as a side thing, and also my like kind of in situation. My wife wants to be flexible for the family, wants to be
yeah,
flexible to be able to say, hey, I can go and attend this. And so I was like, okay, well, as I go and learn, I'll teach you as I go, and we can run this together. So you can be
yeah,
flexible, I can still teach, and I'll QC do a lot of these things if I'm able to. And
yeah.
so
That's a great. I know labs are great also for those that have other passions,
yes,
and they can work when they want to work and get, as long as they make the due dates, because that's the
right,
one thing you can do to make
yes,
an enemy of an assistant is force
yes,
them to reschedule a patient because you didn't done that a few times. So
yeah.
I actually try to help out as much as I can. The assistants, they'll call Cade, we need
Oh,
this rush, and I'm like, I can do it, but I'm paying it forward because I will screw up in the future, and I want you to cover my back. so so
um,
the greatest thing, I don't know, we're over an hour, and I usually try to
oh
keep these an
yes,
hour, but one of the greatest things I like to do as a lab tech is make friends with the ortho assistant, the dental assistant, because if you can
yes.
make friends with them and be in good terms, because you could be on good terms with the doctor, but if you're not on good terms with the assistant,
Yeah,
there's going to be a
we're
clash
running
there.
we're running the pretty much the ship at that point with doctor at the helm making decisions, but nothing moves unless we're there to make it move.
Yeah, and you
In
can
there,
whisper in their ear, "This other lab is a lot
yeah,
better that
exactly.
used to work for," and so I need to
Hmm.
make the assistants happy and it, scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's like
Exactly.
I messed up. I, the front desk rescheduled
Yes.
this patient earlier. Can we have it earlier? And I'm like, I actually can do. If I can actually do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, thanks. The doctor's gonna kill me. I may have saved some
Oh,
lives.
Oh, it definitely has. Oh, absolutely. It'd be stuff like that, or it would just be, hey, I know you sent this case back, but this is actually or our other patient's case, so we don't have the person that's scheduled today. Can we get some type of rush delivery, or I can drive out to your place, pick it
Yeah,
up, and then come back? Oh man,
that happened the other day, and they were like, we screwed up and we
yeah,
rescheduled. They didn't inform the assistant
yeah.
who's also running the lab part of it that they
Oh,
moved the thing up. She called me. She's like, "Oh, we're coming in at 1 o'clock today," and I was like, I can make this within an hour, but
right.
it's
I
an hour
can't try.
drive to you,
Yes.
and I can't make that." I was like, "Send a driver. I'll make this. By the time they get here, they can get it." And
Yep.
so that teamwork that we
Super
were
cool.
talking about is very important and make your life so much easier.
Oh yeah.
And also, there's some mottos with labs. It's like, we make the dentist look good, but it's everybody that makes the dentist look good is the
Everyone.
team that they bring around them,
Yes.
assistants. Because the assistant can text me at any time and go, "Hey, I'm looking for this case." I'm like, "Oh, it's right
Hmm.
here." We can schedule something. The doctor doesn't even have to stress or worry about it.
Nope.
Uh, eh, so, oh, we
Oh,
have a hello.
oh, hello.
Meepy,
Oh,
that's from
another
your
one.
channel.
Yeah, that's another one from one of my people.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, this is so cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, very nice. Yeah, it's definitely when we can all communicate, it is a happier situation. It's not just for us to work with each other and everything. It's for our patients. I mean,
oh yeah,
they're the real ones that come out ahead of at the end of it. Is that we're helping all in this show to make sure that their experience is good. And that's where, apart from just ortho getting me into, or having braces getting me into this, just being able to help people, be that support, was important, because I had the opportunity. I told my doctor I wanted to become a dentist, and he told me, and he got me ready and got me well informed. Man, my brain hurt at that point, but realizing that I like the support aspect of it all, and that I like being on the ground floor, teaching, assisting other people to be better supporters, was what I ended up liking. And I think that's where teaching this got me to, is overall, is that this is great.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good aspect to end on. You know, the patient's the number one why we get into this. And one of the things I liked about ortho was you could, as an ortho assistant, you actually see these shy kids come in.
Oh yeah.
And they got crooked teeth and they don't smile and they don't. And then as their teeth start to straighten, they start opening up and become more outgoing, and you know they have that beautiful smile.
Oh yeah.
So
awesome.
yeah. Well, let's we'll end this here. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
Maybe we'll pinpoint something to talk about. You know, if you need me to come on and talk to some students or some.
Oh, that would be an awesome experience. Yeah. Oh,
and I could do Q&A with your channel, you know,
yeah,
or your students, and ask what it's like in a lab, you know.
Exactly. Oh, that would be beautiful one day. Yeah. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind.
So, with that being said, everybody subscribe to the Dental.thing's YouTube channel. It's dental. Just search Dental.thing. It's the very first one that comes up, pretty much.
Right.
Here's his logo. Look for that logo. Oh yeah, don't change that logo for the next few months.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
But look for that logo, and we're streaming live on his side too. So we're merging these two universes together. But again, if you're a lab and you're a lab owner or manager or something, and you're bringing in someone who doesn't know much about teeth and stuff, start with Miller's channel here, and he'll teach you, you know, because sometimes you go into the lab, you don't know what the other side looks like, how it comes in. So that being said, is so cool. That's so cool. We're getting some. Oh, and we got it. Raphael, I think this is Raphael Ortiz from, he's an ORG member also, so he says Merry Christmas, everybody.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. So Merry Christmas to everyone. We just got through with all that. We made it.
Yeah, we made it. And so we'll end it there. Thank you, Miller, for coming aboard and being willing to talk to lowly lab techs out there. And let us know what's going on your side of the world.
Oh yeah, thank you, Kate, for having me. It was awesome, and definitely a first-time mind-blowing experience to be able to talk to other professional YouTubers like yourself.
Yeah, this is fun. Like this, we have a lot a lot in common, because we're both doing the same thing, teaching. Helping the next, and trying to stay aboard and above everything. So that is excellent.
Awesome.
So anyway, I will see everybody next week. Look forward to maybe another stream, maybe just straight from my channel instead of the ORG. So if you're looking for my channel, it's RetainerDesigner. You can search on there, and you can find my channel there if you're interested in following dumb lab stuff online. So,
same over here.
Yeah. So we got a tooth icon there.
There you go. Teeth. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below on his side and my side, and we'll answer questions respectively, and we'll stay in contact with each other.
Yes, that's right.
Until next time, we'll see everybody next week or 2 weeks. I don't know when. Just subscribe and click the notification bell on both our channels. That way you know when we're going live.
That's right.
Until then, I'll say bye. Miller, stay on. Stay on. We got to do some uploading, and we'll do some final things. So until then, till next time, I'll see y'all later. Thank you again, Miller.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Thank you.